All right, well, welcome to the Not Just Piano First Blog Pod.
Wait, this is the first one?
Yeah, this
You
is.
didn't tell me I was your first guest.
You are my first guest. This is the first one. First one. I've been thinking about doing this for really for the last couple of years. I've always wanted to do some type of video on auditioning.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the first one. Yay!
Wow.
And our first guest
First.
is Tawnya Lee, Miss Tawnya
Hello.
Lee.
Hello.
I've known Tawnya for a couple of years, I think 3 years, 4 years, I think. And I've taught, she has 3 amazing sons, young men. And when I say amazing, they are amazing. It's been a joy getting to know them. It's been a joy teaching them, seeing them grow into manhood. So, I mean, like literally, you did a really good job. You should get what do you call it? Like a trophy or something. When kids graduate, why did they get everything? You
I don't know,
should get
but I made it my new tradition that when one of my kids graduates, I go on a trip, a vacation, a reward vacation with whoever graduated.
Oh,
So
with,
it's my father's son, but
okay.
I'll bring them along.
So where did you go for Elijah?
So Elijah, when he was little, he loved Cars, the movie Cars, and he wanted to go to Disney California and visit Cars Land, so we did that.
Really?
Yeah, and now Noah's graduating and he wants to go visit Shakespeare's birthplace, so
Oh,
we're going to
really?
England. To
Are you
visit.
serious?
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I know.
I should have thought of that. Gabriella graduates in 30 days.
You got time.
I don't
Get your
know.
passport.
We'll probably go to Cracker Barrel. I don't know. But so today's topic is how to get that audition.
Okay.
Whether it's theater, competition, Broadway, whatever, anything that you're auditioning for, school, church, community theater. I am so excited about today because these questions that I'm going to ask you, I've always wanted to know the answer to them.
Okay.
You know, I have very limited education and experience in this area. Now, I will say the majority of my students that have auditioned usually get lead or they get these higher parts. But I just want them, I want to pick your brain and I want you to try to give us some resources from your experience because you're an amazing creative, you're an actor, you're a mom, you're a visionary, like production artist. So Tawnya, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Tawnya. I'm the artistic director of Love Your City Theater. It's the community theater in Cedar Hill, Texas. It's also a ministry of Trinity Church. It's a wild thing. I didn't have a lot of background in theater either. And the Lord brought me to the theater as I was trying to overcome anxiety in my life. I was having panic attacks and just extreme anxiety. And through this process of going into the theater and auditioning and being in a show, the Lord just started peeling back all these layers of anxiety and healing me. And it was a powerful thing. And so I started as an actor and eventually ended up in the lead position of the theater, and I'm at the helm. And it's a beautiful thing. My whole family, it's what we do together. All of us are involved in different levels, on stage, behind the scenes, in the sound booth, all the things. So it's a joy. It's been about 10 years, 11 years of a journey into a brand new thing. And every day we just wake up and we're like, okay, we get to do this, and let's say yes to whatever the new opportunity is today. So lots of fun.
You bring up a good point. I deal with a lot of kids that are like really gifted and talented, and they have this ambition and this zeal to be in the arts, but they're the other side of the coin is they deal with a lot of anxiety and panic, and it's almost like how do they overcome that? What would be your biggest advice for a kid that they're amazing, like they would thrive in the arts, but this anxiety is sometimes debilitating?
Okay, so I'm going to give you my personal story, which is rooted in my belief system.
Yeah.
So it might not work for everybody, but when I was dealing with this anxiety that was so bad, like I couldn't even leave the house without feeling tremendous nervousness. And the Lord revealed to me, He said, your anxiety is rooted in not believing that I am good. You're not trusting that I am good.
Yeah.
And so when I started to change my perspective and really make my mind meditate and think on the goodness of God. And so the Lord gave me this little tool that I teach everyone who comes through my theater. when I feel overwhelmed with anxiety or nerves, I will just breathe in and I'll say, Lord, you're good. And then I'll breathe out and say, I trust your goodness. And I'll do it again. Lord, you're good. And breathe out and I trust your goodness. And I'll do it again and again until my spirit is calm. So for me, that might be a little bit too metaphysical for some of your students. So on a practical side, I think there's a lot of pressure in our culture because we live in the American Idol society, right? All of our entertainment and seeing these shows on TV like The Voice and all this, people need to get up there and just wow everyone and be the best. And even little kid shows on Disney Channel, it's like some little kid that suddenly has this gift, you know. I think it's a really hard perspective. I think people don't realize how deeply rooted that American Idol culture is rooted into our hearts. Yeah. So I think if people can have a perspective shift and realize you don't have to be the diva. You don't have to get up there and realize like, hey, I'm Troy Bolton and I'm gonna, bring the house down in this what. If you can get up there and say, this is a gift. I love doing this and this is a joy. And when I'm gonna stand in front of these auditioners, I may or may not get this part, but it does not affect my identity or who I am. They don't have the final say in over my life. They just I might not be the right fit, you know? And that's the big thing, is changing your perspective and saying, I wanna go into this show and just be a part. I'm not here to stand out. I'm here to contribute and be a part of a community that's creating a beautiful picture. And there's just that shift where it goes from, you're taking the pressure off of trying to be the perfect and the best and the star, to being, this brings me joy. And I'm gonna follow that. I'm gonna develop that. I'm gonna run into the joy and I'm gonna run after the things that bring me joy.
So you feel like a lot of kids, their perspective is more on the star, the lead, as opposed to going into it, I want to experience this. I want to enjoy this.
My absolute favorite people that come through my theater are the ones who may be highly talented or maybe be a very mid-level talent, but they say, hey, I'm in this. Oh, you can cast me as a tree in the back, but I'm excited to be here and be a part. And when you have that perspective, it's just joyful, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you, Leads are a great place to be, but there's a lot of stress in being a lead. So maybe if you're nervous, just go in, right on your audition form. Yes, I will accept ensemble. Yes, because it's a great place to get used to the feel of being on stage, used to the feel of the lights, used to the pressure of thinking on your toes when things don't go exactly as you've rehearsed. And as you get more comfortable, then you will build the courage and you will have the peace of mind to be able to handle the pressure of being in a lead role.
Well, I've also told kids that a lot of them that are going for lead, and I tell them, just because you don't get lead, that's not a reflection of your gift or your talent. A lot of times a certain role is for a specific,
100%.
You're looking for, is that true that you're looking for a specific role type for Okay.
And so that is actually a little speech that I give every time we have callbacks and I have a room full of people who are all nervous. And I say, listen, you might be the best vocalist or the best actor. You might have landed the lead in everything you've ever auditioned for. I'm not necessarily just ranking like, okay, the best person is going to get the lead role, second person is getting the supporting role, that doesn't make sense. What I am doing is I'm creating a picture. I'm creating this show. Everything needs to blend together. I had a kid come in one time when I was auditioning, doing auditions for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He came in, he blew me out of the water, and I really wanted him for a certain role. And as he was walking out, I was like, you were wonderful. You are my dream for this role. However, if you're going to be one of the 4 siblings, you're way taller than the ones that you're supposed to be younger for, that have already come in and really impressed me with their role. So I might not be able to cast you just based on your height. And it's not that you're too tall or too short as a person, it's just that compared to the other actors, I'm creating a picture, right? And so sometimes I might take the person who wasn't the 100% tip-top best at auditioning for that role, but they are the best at creating the ultimate goal that I'm looking for. And if so everyone comes in and says, I'm willing to be a part of this picture, then I think it's a better perspective than just saying, I need to be the best so I can get the lead role.
That goes into my next question. How much does workability weigh on your decision? So
are you talking about teachability?
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. Totally. Absolutely. I will any day of the week take mid-level talent, but they have a good attitude, they are teachable, they are humble, they show up on time, they are encouraging their castmates, they are showing up for the work days, they are a joy to be with. And if they are teachable and they are flexible, I can work with that.
So
I
are
can
you
make something
watching,
great out of that.
like when they come in, how they're interacting with parents, how they are responding to instruction when they're in front of you?
Yeah.
Are those all cues for you how teachable this person is?
Totally. So I will say this is a very solid tip for if you're standing in front of a casting panel at an audition. Prepare, and then come in and deliver it the way that you prepared, whether it's your song or your lines. Prepare. But then the director will very likely, if they have something in mind for you, they will say, can you do that again, but let's change this. I want you to remove the vibrato. I want you to give me maybe some more depth in your emotion in what you're portraying vocally. Or could you do this maybe with a different accent? Or could you do this, And if I have someone who stands in front of me and it happens and they're like, no, I don't really see it like that. And it happens. And I can't imagine any of your students like that. But they do.
Wow.
And then, so I'm not going to cast that person.
Yeah.
And it might just be that they were nervous in that moment. But if they're not flexible and able to pivot at that moment, I can't use them. You know what I mean? So I would much rather someone might come in and unfortunately it does happen a lot more with people who are very high level talent. They're just used to being coddled and everyone doing whatever they want. But in the end, if I can't work with you, it's not your show, it's our show. And we together are creating something beautiful for our audience. And if you're not willing to be a part of that, then I'll definitely take someone who's a step down.
Yeah.
If they're teachable, if they're humble. Yeah.
That's good because I see it more with teenagers that have gotten some success,
Yes.
that this I've arrived.
Yeah.
This pride, they come in there as, I've had this, and this. Do you pick up on that vibe?
100%. Pride means that you are stiff and you are unchangeable and unwilling. We can't work with that. I cannot work with that. We can't, unless you come in and I want to cast you exactly as you are, but as a creative and as someone who has high level vision, I'm probably gonna stretch your understanding of that role a lot. Yeah. So yeah, no, if they come in and they're proud or they have that kind of diva attitude, I'm just like, yeah, thanks, but no.
Well, and I like some of the points that you made about anxiety. I'll tell, when you were talking about the breathing, I'll tell a lot of the students the diaphragmatic breathing, the deep breathing, regulating their system. And the other point that you made about changing your perspective with the Lord, I'll tell kids quite a bit. Usually at their first vocal session with me, I'll ask them, have you ever asked God what he thinks of your voice? What does he think of your acting?
Yeah.
What does he think of your piano playing? And I've yet to have one person come in here and say they've ever asked him, and I tell them your very first assignment is to go before God and say, what do you even think of my singing? Because once he speaks to that, the one who created that gift, that is the only voice that should matter. It silences even our voices. It silences whatever, voices come into the head when we're in front of other people. But no, those were some really, really good points. How weighty, that's the word that keeps coming up, distracting is someone who deals with anxiety, like nervousness, coming in nervous. Can that work against them? Is there a balance? Do you give grace with that?
I think, so we're a community theater. There's definitely a lot more room grace in that than say if you were going to a professional theater, 100%. So I think community theater is a great place to start. And also, if you're interested in theater, choose a theater that is nurturing and that is warm and welcoming, and that the end goal isn't just to put on a good show, but the end goal is to raise up artists. And with Love Your City Theater, that's our goal. So it is difficult, and it happens every audition. I have one coming up next weekend, and it's so hard to look at someone who just crumbles.
Yeah.
I do have people who leave the room crying, and it's not because I'm mean, it's just because their nerves got to them.
Yeah.
I will always, and this is me, and you can't expect this grace from all the theaters, but I will always say, why don't you step out? This is your time slot, but I know other people are waiting, so we'll let a few people come in, and then you collect yourself and come back in, and we'll give it another go. Obviously, if someone can't handle the pressure of an audition, it does probably exclude them from a really weighty role.
Yeah.
However, I'm definitely, if I see something in a person, I want to bring that out. I want to give them the opportunity. And what everyone needs is as much time on stage as possible, where they become just very comfortable.
Yeah.
Comfortable thinking on their toes, comfortable interacting with the audience and with other people. And so the more shows that you're in, the easier it gets, you know? I will say that preparedness, you're going to be a lot less likely to break down if you are prepared.
That's what I was going to ask. How do they mentally, emotionally prepare for an audition? Because I'll tell students, you should be singing, acting for people that make you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes when kids are in the studio, I'll pull John in or I'll pull Gabriella in, just all of a sudden just sing for them so they can get used to that adrenaline. What would be your recommendation of how to prepare mentally, emotionally?
Yeah, if you've only ever sung in the shower or like blasted, you know, in your room, excuse me, your own bedroom when no one's around in the house, you're going to feel nervous in front of an audience. So get in front of people as much as possible. And another really great thing is, please get with a vocal coach, get with someone who can work with you, and don't do it the week before. Give yourself a lot of time to prepare for these auditions. I have people who come in and they have a role that's a dream role, and they've been working 4 months with a vocal coach on that role because it means so much to them.
Yeah.
So put in the work.
The money is worth investing in that. I was evaluating this weekend for South Central Fine Arts, and there was a lot of students that came in that I could hear the potential. I was like, the ministry was evident. Technique-wise, I could see the potential, and I would just write, if you just work with a vocal coach or get some vocal training, it would just elevate your gift to a whole nother level.
So I'm gonna just really shatter some people's reality right now because.
All right, let's shatter it. If I had a little music
sound effect bowling table, okay, break some glass. So it's really popular, like on Instagram, and I don't have TikTok, but
I do. I don't even know how to use it.
I'm so old.
I know,
but it's just kind of a really popular thing for you see a vocalist, you see some kind of artist in there. They just start like singing in their kitchen while they're cooking dinner, and it's perfection. And then they've got friends in the background who are like. Oh my goodness, I didn't know, or they have this little session and it's just randomly in a parking garage or in their car, and people are like, oh my, I hate to burst your bubble, but the majority of those, they're actually canned, like they have pre-recorded those and are lip syncing, or maybe they haven't pre-recorded and they're doing it live, but then they're taking that and they're running it through Audition, and they're condensing some of the wild notes, and they're getting this really polished. What I think it does, it's the same thing that it does mentally when we see all the images that we see of women are all filtered, and airbrushed, and we just have this false idea of what it means to be beautiful because we're not seeing anything real.
Exactly.
Right? But the same thing happens vocally, and so, but it gives us this idea that, we can just bust out with something in our car or while we're washing dishes and it's going to be a showstopper. That's not real. you've got to put in the work. And so very strategically, what I would really recommend is know your range, know what your strengths are vocally, and then find a song that really highlights those things, right? You might think that you want to sing Defying Gravity because you're Ariana Grande, but if you can't hit that riff, don't try it. Just don't. And, oh, sorry.
Please don't do it. Don't do it.
Sorry. But it's true. I just see people pick songs because they love it and they feel the emotion and they connect with it.
That's a good point.
But if it doesn't highlight your strengths, then how does that help me as a director to know where to put you? Because I want to put you in a place where you can shine. And if Ariana Grande isn't a role in our show, then I'm probably not gonna, I don't need that, right?
I already know how.
So know what your range is, know what your strengths are, and work with those. And then bring some emotion, make sure you're connecting emotionally with that song, and then practice, practice, practice. I totally live by the mantra, don't practice till you get it right, practice till you can't get it wrong.
But a vocal coach or an acting coach will show you and teach you how to practice it. Because you can practice and you're practicing incorrectly.
Yes.
Do you feel like a lot of students have just a bunch of yes people around them? You're great, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. I feel like you need a professional, someone that can objectively listen to you and watch you, tell you what you don't want to hear, but tell you honestly, that, and I tell students all the time, I will never lie to you. I will never lie to you. I will be honest with you in love, but if it was off, it was off. You've never arrived. So I feel like sometimes that they get the confidence because everyone around them is, you're great, you're awesome, and no one is really telling them,
if your end goal is to grow, you're going to need truth. And that's not only going to be helpful for your audition, but also for you as a performer on stage. When you come in and audition, if I cast you, I expect your final performance in 2 months to be exponentially better than what you did as an auditioner, because you have been humble and you have allowed the instruction and the growth to happen. And that's why I do love theater, and I love the opportunity, because if you're humble, if you're willing to listen and grow and not be too proud, you will be better. Every single show, you will be a better performer by the end of it. But you have to have that mindset, and it starts with the practice. It starts by allowing voices to speak to your life, like coaches and mentors and directors, and that should be the end goal for everybody.
Well, see, you make a good point. So let's say someone didn't get a part and they're just like, well, I'm not doing this ever again. But what I'm hearing from you is that every year you come back, if I see growth, every year if you come back, it's, that speaks to you as an auditioner that this is,
Yeah, and I have people who maybe don't make the cast, but then they say, I just want to be a part. Can I work backstage? Can I help with painting sets? And I see that, and I promise, next time they audition, I don't care how bad it was, I'm going to give them a part, because I see their willingness, And don't give up. It might not be that your audition was terrible. It might be that there wasn't a good fit for you. Again, you have to realize that not every person belongs in every show, regardless of their talent level. It just depends on the show and what are we trying. Again, I keep going back to the picture, but that's what I'm trying to create a painting. And I feel like every actor that comes in is a different color, right? A different paint color. And so I might not need that hot pink, and girl, you are a hot pink and you rock that hot pink, but this painting is a Renoir and we don't have hot pink in it. So come back when we do a hot pink show. Was that too metaphorical?
I'm so visual in my mind. I was visualizing the hands together. And I was just following the story. I was like, this is a good story.
So
No, that's a good point. Because some people don't get a part and they just think it was a reflection. I'm like, no, you have to think about, there's a certain role, that we're looking, could you walk me through the audition process with Love Your City Theater? What does it look like? What do they expect?
Absolutely. So we always post all the info online. So you'll reserve a time slot, And we do a closed door audition for our first auditions. You will come in. We'll also always have the sides, which are your character lines, character descriptions also online. So you can look ahead and say, which of these lines do I want to read? And we'll also ask you to prepare about a minute or a minute and a half of a song to sing. So you will come in and you literally have 5 minutes in front of a casting panel, and that's your chance to make an impression. So if you come in, it's called slating yourself. Go ahead and stand in front and say, hello, my name is, and I am auditioning for the role of whatever. And I will say, please be flexible and be willing to accept any role. I mean, I realize that there's times in people's lives where they don't have time to be in a show, but if they do get that one role, they'll make it happen. And I respect that. But it is hard to work around people who say, I will only accept this lead role or that lead role. I probably won't work with you if you put that on there. So slate yourself, tell us your name, introduce yourself. And then you have your sides, which is just a small monologue that you go ahead and read for us. Be prepared, have it memorized if possible, because it's online and you have the time. If you need to have it in your hand and read off of it, that's okay. But try to make eye contact. Try to really, really delve into the character. If you don't stand in one place and just hold it and read the lines. Unfortunately, I do see some actors who come in and do that. They're usually the inexperienced ones. Go ahead and work through those lines. It's such a short little paragraph, and so you have to decide what's being said, what is the motivation, what is the emotion, who am I interacting with? And so if you are reading those lines and you're interacting with a character, go ahead and turn to them, use your hands, use the space that you've been given to make me see you as an actor. I have actors who come in and they're just so good at jumping right into that character that I can envision them in that role. Others, I just really have to dig deep into my imagination because they're not giving me anything to work with. They're standing there. And then you have your vocal audition. For all musical theater, usually they'll specify what they want you to sing, but I would say 80-90% of theaters will say, choose a musical theater number in the style of the song, of the show. So, don't come in and sing Under the Sea if you're auditioning for Les Mis because the style doesn't. You might be a great comedic actor or comedic singer and really be able to entertain people, but if there aren't any of those kind of numbers in the show, then it's useless for me to see that you can do that. But go ahead and do your little song, and then at the end, I would say just say thank you. You don't have to shake their hands. A lot of directors don't like that because there's so many people coming through and they don't have an opportunity to wash their hands after 80 people who just came through. They could just say thank you and you're on your way out. So another important thing is usually at that point in the process, you will need to be able to have a good idea of what your calendar is and to say, these are my conflicts and when I can't be here. That is actually a huge part in the casting process. If someone is going on 3 family vacations over the summer, I'll probably say this isn't your season. Come back another time. I'd love to.
That's a good point.
To have you then. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Make sure that you can dedicate and make priority. Yeah.
So show up to your audition just ready. You can tell the professionals who come in, they are usually, if they have a role they're really gunning for, they wear something that makes me think of that role. If you're auditioning for Belle, I'll see these, they're wearing a little blue skirt and they have their hair kind of in a Belle style. It's not over the top, but they're kind of winking at the idea of don't come in sloppy.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to imagine you.
You're saying come in intentional.
Yeah. If you got your pajama pants on, I'm wondering how seriously you're taking this. Yeah. So, and arrive early enough where you can get signed in. You can calm your nerves, get a sip of water. You're just ready, and just prepare. Just be ready for that. You will do a lot better once your nerves. You got all those. The adrenaline and all the nervousness. I was in a show earlier this year. And I was surprised at how nervous I was at the auditions.
Yeah.
Because I have the right mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I know that these people don't have the final say over my life. I know
Yeah.
they're just looking
Yeah.
for the right fit, and I might not be it, and it doesn't affect me. But even sitting there waiting for my turn, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little sweaty. Like, what, you know? And so the more prepared you are, the more you can go on autopilot when you are reciting those character sides, when you are singing your song, and you don't have to focus as much on the nerves, you know?
Have you had one audition that was 100% error free?
Oh,
They made no error.
I see
no
hundreds of auditions. I would say, I'm sorry, I'm just pausing so long. If I do, it's going to be the people who have literally been, people bring me resumes and they've been in 50 or 100 shows. They're older actors. They're very confident and very calm because they do this, you know, they might be in 6, maybe 10 shows a year. So it's no sweat off, you know, if they don't make it, and they know what they're doing. So I would say if I ever have, it's those people.
So, but there's grace for, because I'll tell students, if you're going into this thinking it's going to be 100% error free, or they think that if they make one mistake or one error, then it just discounted them.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's a really important part of the audition process. I want to see how you recover from that because no show is error free.
That's good.
And I really work with my cast to make sure they're prepared for the fact that there will be things that happen.
That's good.
I was on stage in one of my early shows, and I had this velvet skirt that probably weighed 20 pounds, and I'm not exaggerating. The clasp broke, and it's falling off.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of my solo. So how do you make those adjustments? Things happen. Set pieces break, props fall apart, someone forgets their lines, your mic goes out. These are all just eventualities. They will happen. And so if I see you as an auditioner and something does go wrong, I want to see how you react.
Yeah.
I'll have people who just break down. I guess please don't ever apologize.
Oh yeah.
Don't ever say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would say 70% of the people that come through, especially amateurs, they're like, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. This
That was one of my questions was, what is a common pitfall you see performers make during auditions?
Yeah, apologizing, making excuses. Don't tell me, like, the number of people who come in and say, oh, I have a sore throat, or you know, like they're setting me up so that I maybe think that they're better than what they're about to do. Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
You know, don't make excuses.
Yeah. And
yeah, don't apologize. Try not to break down and cry. Just try not to. And if you do, just pull yourself together and come back and try again. It's okay. There's so much grace. And I really wish people would know that if I'm sitting through, like this weekend, I'll sit through 75, easy 75 people coming in, okay? So maybe out of all those auditions, I might have 5 that are stellar professional level, right? And then I'll have another 70 who are they're just people who are following what they love. I want to see your heart. I want to see your flexibility, your teachability. I want to see that you have joy in what you do. I've seen enough people who are really, really good that it kind of doesn't impress me anymore. Yeah. It's just what it is. Yeah. You know, it's your gift, and I want to know what you're doing with your gift more than anything. And also, I've seen enough people who aren't that good that it doesn't bother me. Yeah. You know, you're not going to come in and wow me or disappoint me. I just want to see you. I want to see who you are, where you fit in my show. Are you going to be a life giver, or are you going to be like an energy vampire? That's important to me. Yeah. You know, and I think that does show up at the audition. Come in and have fun with it. And also, I do want to say at our theater, I don't know how many theaters do this. I don't know how common it is. I welcome people to come audition even if they're not intending to be in the show, just because they want the practice. Yeah, that's just good. Because it's a hard thing and they want to push themselves to do hard things. And I always, every audition, I have people who come in and do that. Not a lot, but I really respect that practice. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, you actually answered my last two questions. Was what aspects of a performance or audition tend to leave the most lasting impression on you?
Yeah.
And I think you did answer that. Yeah.
I think for me, I can always tell when someone operates with a spirit of excellence. So just in my theater, the way that I run my shows is I try to have about an hour of rehearsal for every minute that we're on the stage. So if it's a 120-hour show, we're going to put in 120 minutes, we'll put in 120 hours. I also ask each of my performers, now this is going to be widely varied depending on how much you're on stage, and what your experience is. But for every minute that you are on stage, I want you to be at home practicing 3 hours.
Wow, that's good.
So if you have a 5-minute song, you're in the ensemble and you're in this number, I want to know if that song is 5 minutes on stage, we're going to practice 5 hours in rehearsal. And I want you to practice, what would that be, 15 hours at home.
I'm not good
I
at
forgot what I said. Yeah, so I want to know that you've come in, and I can think right off the top of my head of a few actors that I work with who really aren't quick on the uptake of picking up the choreography or picking up the music. It doesn't come naturally to them, but they go home and they put in the work, and the next time we have rehearsal, they're nailing it. They are committed, and I know that about them, and so when they come through and their audition, it's maybe mid-level, I know I can count on them to go home and put in the work. I think that spirit of excellence is so important. I know you've probably seen shows and performances and you sit there and you think, if they would have just put in a little more work, this could have been awesome. But it feels like I'm watching a dress rehearsal or like the first night of tech week. Like I feel like there's little mistakes and things that are happening that the director should have really worked on, or he should have scheduled more hours of rehearsal.
That's what I love about it.
Excellence.
Yeah, you guys are just top notch. I mean, it's just, every performance that I have seen, it is absolutely professional. It is amazing. It's worth every penny that you spend on it. It really is. I mean, I saw some kids, evaluating this weekend that you're right. Like at the bare minimum, you should know the lyrics. The bare minimum. You're trying to go to nationals and you're doing this and you're like trying to think of the words, you're not able to perform because you're thinking so much, and you're right. The whole time I was like, man, if you were just a little bit more prepared, I would move you forward.
I remember coaching a musical theater group for fine arts, and I would say, okay, let's run it again. Okay, and they were like, Tawnya, we're good. We know it. We know our part. And I'm like, you don't understand. So it's like cooking, excuse me, if my family loves me to make chili. So I'm gonna cook the meat, I'm gonna cook the onions, and I'm gonna throw them in a pot with some beans and some tomatoes, sauce and some beef broth and all the spices. In 30 minutes, you could have chili. But I'm telling you, in 3 or 4 hours, you're gonna have chili because it takes time for all those individual ingredients to simmer together and to become something beautiful. So give yourself that time, and if maybe your director is just wanting to really quick get the show that I was just in, I only had 6 rehearsals before tech, so I was working hours and hours on my part at home, because when I went in there, I wanted to make sure that we were ready. And it was very cohesive.
Because it's the little things that make it, and I see that. Like I see that when it's something that's sloppy, it's just like, because you're talking about, ensemble fine arts. You go to nationals, the difference between 39 and 40 could, in essence, be how tight you were.
Right.
Some of these ensembles their blends and their harmony, they are tight, and you're right. It takes time to. We're not about just being okay. I want to be okay.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. We should, like you said, do things in the spirit of excellence. Like whatever your craft is, whatever your skill is, like your attitude should be, I'm going to do whatever it takes to build this to the place of it represents me, the Lord, my family, Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to know a little bit about you before you kind of tell me about your big production that's coming up. Okay, so you've already told us what drew you to musical theater and how it transformed your life. Could you tell me, like, who are some of your biggest artistic influences?
Oh, that's a really hard question.
Give me one. Give me one.
Okay.
And you can't say Jesus.
Biggest artist. I mean, I'm a child of the '90s.
Okay.
And so the emergence of Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, I saw people, I mean, and even Boyz II Men.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I know that I'm showing my age, but I just think that there was a level.
A lot of these kids are into the 90s.
Excellence there that we don't see today. I think it's fabulous. I'm also such an old soul, so when it comes to musical theater, I'm always gonna throw back to White Christmas and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Music Man. I think in that golden era, there's a level of technicality, musicality. The choreography was so. I mean, these people, when they say triple threat, they were embodying what it meant to be an artist in all levels, and it's just so inspiring to me. When you look at the musical scores, as we do, we have live orchestra you look at the musical scores of the older musicals versus something that's more modern, you can tell that there was a level of excellence and an understanding what music was that is really, really hard to find today. And so I really do like to throw back and look at, just watch White Christmas. Look at the cast there, and
you have to be able to act, sing, and dance. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and they were just so excellent at what they did.
And it was effortless.
Piano. And also, I will say that, like, when I started really wanting to be in musical theater, I started taking piano lessons because it made me understand music better and be a better vocalist and be able to hear things. And it was an invaluable practice for me to take piano because it helped me really understand.
And I think every dancer should take some type of instrument because I've seen dancers that they struggle with rhythm.
Right.
They struggle with rhythm, and I'm like, man, you're just as music classes that straighten that out a little bit.
And piano is really, I feel like everybody should start with piano because you understand. I mean, really, if you know when you take piano, you learn how to really read music. You really learn how to understand theory, probably more than any other instrument. So then you can very easily, I see the musical scores. I don't play all these other instruments, but I look at the musical scores for all the horns and the percussion, and I'm like, I could do this if I just knew where these notes were all on, because it's one line.
Exactly. It's one clef. They're doing one clef.
But if you knew how to play piano, I think that's your biggest foundation. Like, invest in that.
Yeah.
It's going to make you a better vocalist too.
And I would say just a year or two of piano, just because you can get music theory. You can get it all in, and absolutely. Yeah. So my last question to you would be, what is the role that you would play if you had a genie in a bottle and said?
So I love caricature roles that are I love being comedic. The role that I just played this year, I was Marilla in Anne of Green Gables. It was really, really hard to play just a very stern, straight-laced character that didn't have a lot of outward expression. That was very difficult. So I do love those roles, and I feel like I love those roles that are more expressive and silly and make the crowd laugh. So I'll always go for that. I loved my first theater role was Miss Hannigan in Annie.
Oh, okay.
I might like to go back and do that someday, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And I think now that I've been a mom of teenagers, I can really be a lot meaner in that role. I can sell it a lot better.
Aww.
Yeah. I loved it.
That's awesome.
I just saw this week, last week, I think, we went and saw Back to the Future.
I heard about that.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I just really, the nostalgia, I love that movie. And I think they really outdid themselves in the technical aspects of the lighting and the set. It was really, really great. But again, if you compare that musical score with, even Les Mis, I know it's more modern, but if you compare it with Sound of Music or anything like that, it doesn't even hold a candle. But it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because I'm doing a song from Sound of Music, Don't Re Mi, at the recital, and I'm like, just a lot of parts. You just realize how many parts, and like to get kids to do that, like it just, I respect it, because you're just like, man, these kids have to learn all these different things. And
it was funny because that Back to the Future, even though, I mean, we loved it, it's one of the best shows I've ever seen, but Elijah, my oldest, was one of your students, vocal student and piano student, and he taught for you too. So we walked away from that, and you just talk about all the things that you learned about the show, and he said, I was surprised because vocally there were some duets and there were some small ensembles, and they just kept it really simple. I was expecting them to have more layers of intricacy, and those kind of things, they're harder to find. You got to put in the work. People aren't as talented as they used to be, and I think it's that.
As long as you can just carry a tune.
I know, and I think it does go back to excellence. We got to put in the work to be excellent, and if you think it's good enough, you're probably just at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Keep working. Find professionals to help you work through it. Get feedback. Be willing to learn. Be willing to grow, and above all, please stay humble.
Yeah, because I tell kids, excellence absolutely shows. I mean, of all the kids that I evaluated this weekend, I could tell the ones who had training. I could tell the ones who had technique. It's worth investing in it. It's worth practicing to improve your technique, because I see it, and it does. It elevates your gift to a whole different level. But would you tell us, because all of this has been amazing, like everything, like I just feel so educated and informed. Like I'm almost gonna go up. I would like to be a villain. I really would. I think I would.
Villains are way more fun to play. I'm gonna tell you, I've been a villain in almost every show we've played, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I'd be good, since most kids.
You would rock an Ursula.
That's what I was gonna say. I want to be Ursula, man. Woo! Most unfortunate soul. But no, can you just tell us? Love Your City Theater is doing Prince of Egypt. Could you give us dates and where's it going to be?
So we're doing June 20th and 21st at Trinity Church in Cedar Hill. It's on Pleasant Run. We have 3 shows coming up. I know it's a few months away, but we actually have auditions this weekend, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Is that open auditions?
It is. No roles have been set yet. Nobody's been cast. So, come Friday night, all day Saturday. If you want all the information on loveyourcitytheater.com. We also, if we have younger students or parents who are watching this, we also have Camp Broadway, which is the week of the show. I think it's June 19th through, I don't have my calendar for 20, that doesn't make sense.
I know it's
16th.
Okay.
So it starts on the Monday, goes through Thursday. It's just a half-day theater camp to develop young actors. We keep it one of my goals is to keep everything reasonably priced. As much as we can cover our expenses. We're a nonprofit. Nobody's getting paid. We're all volunteers. And so Camp Broadway is pretty affordable. I think it's $75 for the week. And all of those kids for ages 7 through 15, they get to be in the show. We have one number that we highlight all the kids, and it's a lot of fun. And one of my favorite things is seeing these kids come through Camp Broadway year after year and then go onto the main stage and become some of our best actors, and some of them come back and be our teachers.
Oh, that's good.
And I've had some of them graduate and go out in their actual musical theater teachers in the public school. I've had some of our actors who are now starting their own theater, some of them who are auditioning literally for Broadway, and it's such a joy to see people rise up and take on the arts for the glory of God.
Yeah. Love Your City Theater is a high professional production. When you go to this, you are going to get quality. So if you're wanting to audition, go to loveyourcitytheater.com. Auditions are this weekend, but also the shows are June
20th and 21st.
If you have a child that this is something that you think they would thrive in, please do Camp Broadway.
Yes. Yeah. We're not really auditioning. I think we only have 2 roles for this show that are under 15. We have two small girl roles. So Camp Broadway is a really good place to go.
Yeah, and that's in June.
Yeah. And I would love to have them. It is very limited and people love it. So if you're interested in Camp Broadway, registration opens May 1st, and I will tell you that it does fill up very quickly. I have to cap it because I do put all those kids in our scenes. So yeah, please. I would love to have your young actors come and grow in what they love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tawnya.
Thank you.
Peace out.
I was the first.
You were the first.